So I have been a wild at heart fan for many years, as this is my favourite florist.
Thank you.
This island, not the same as this actual building. Is this been here 25 years?
Yeah, yes, maybe a bit longer.
Because it is a beautiful building.
Piers Golf.
I mean, Piers Golf.
Piers Golf. There's a lovely story.
Piers is, I love his work. I love his work. It's very eccentric too.
But there is a lovely story, and this is my first flower shop, so we've been here forever. And there's always been a subterranean loo here in Victorian times. And then they built on top of it this horrific sort of concrete bunker. And there was the most amazing gentleman, John Scott, who lived across the road, who was tired of looking at this concrete bunker and decided that he would find an architect and pay for this to be built. So there's always been a public loo here, and John wanted to look at flowers, so the front of this building was always going to be a flower shop.
Amazing, what a wonderful story.
I know, it's nice, isn't it? You know, what we create is very much more sort of natural. It's very much about what you can source and find in your garden. And it's also very much about working with British grown flowers, which I think is very important.
I say, no, the trouble is I see a garden and I'll come away and then I'll sort of be thinking about it. It doesn't necessarily always come straight away. Yours is maybe has to be more instantaneous, as opposed to I can work on mine for a couple of weeks. And then it might click, or it might click in that day, but it's all a question of, you know, the things that I went to go and see a garden recently, and I came away thinking, this is going to be difficult. Because I'm going to have to strip an awful lot out.
Right.
And the client's got lots of variegated trees,
Right.
and none of them are actually in great shape. And I then said to her, how bold can we be? And she said, Randle, I didn't bring you on here or bring you to this project so we could play around. We want to do something, we want to make a statement.
But that is why they bring you, especially you, in to do a project like that, because there's no point in having someone as amazing as you are to come and recommend what you should be doing with someone's garden and landscaping and space and not take your advice and your creativity and your vision, because that's what I admire so much about what you do is you plant a garden for now, but you also have to look and know what it's going to look like in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. And that's a real skill. I always get my inspiration from nature, because you just have to look around you to be inspired by colours and what you see, and gardens that you see flowers that are growing next to each other and how they grow, and therefore that's how we can put the two together in a bouquet. And of course, we're very fortunate, like you, Randle, in that we work in some amazing venues with incredible clients that have beautiful homes, wonderful buildings, that, you know, we can create flowers that actually also are in keeping with the environment and the garden and the home, and of course what the client wants. And I think it was so interesting when we worked together on the project in Richmond that we researched the gardens of Capability Brown, and also, who was the other gardener that worked there?
Repton.
Repton. So we looked at the flowers that Repton would have planted in that garden, and that's what we drew our inspiration from for the actual event and wedding. We live in a very different world from that of 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, and what we're finding with flowers is everything is a lot more pared back. Things are more simple, and we are suggesting things that are definitely more in season, and we only work with seasonal flowers anyway. But I think that's really important for us to sort of recognise that we are actually living in quite a different world from the one 3 years ago for a lot of our clients and the work that we're doing. So I think, you know, natural, seasonal British flowers is definitely the move for us in the work that we're seeing at the moment.
Well, especially at this moment in time where everything, you know, between June, July, August, when you can get so much, you can get so much out of the garden.
Yeah. so much.
I mean, the important thing is I like to see my clients actually going and cutting the flowers out of the garden and putting them in the house.
Yes.
Some of them say, oh, if I cut them then they won't last as long. And I said, well, no, but you've got enough variety, enough choice to go and bring in your own cut flowers into the house.
And if you keep cutting sweet peas, they keep growing.
Yeah, well, sweet peas definitely. If you don't cut the sweet peas, if you don't cut them once they've flowered, then the next growth won't happen. So it's really important labour of love.
I think my tastes have definitely changed over my long career in floristry. When I first started, not having a clue what I was doing, everything was much neater and more structured and slightly more rigid and in certain colour palettes. And now I think that everything is a lot more natural and easy and sort of inspired more by sort of fashion and sort of tableware, and there's this big trend for tablescaping. So I think that we actually have seen, and I guess my taste definitely has changed, in that things are a lot more natural, a lot easier going, and using colours that we're not really supposed to put together. I love sort of structured rigidity, that's the word, has disappeared from my life anyway.
We've gone away from the rigidity of landscape or flower arrangements and things, and we're now much more relaxed. I mean, I very much go play with, probably not dark reds, but if you plant something that's got a bright colour in the distance, it helps you have this perspective looking further away. So that, to us is very important. I always say that when I started my gardening when I was a child, I was OD'd on marigolds and nasturtiums, partly due to the fact that you couldn't kill them. I mean, you just put the seed in the ground and it just came out of the ground, flowering, and it was like always looking perfect. And nasturtiums just go wild.
Yeah.
And then depending on if you like it, you can eat them raw. Nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are very good for you. You have a nasturtium salad, so it's all a great thing. I mean, a great trend. Still having little flowers in your, violas or things in your food.
And your cocktail.
Yeah, in your cocktail.
Yeah. Me?
You go first.
Anything that's quintessentially English. So, and in season. So right now, I am loving sweet peas, peonies, hydrangea. For me, anything that represents an English country garden at its best.
And this is why we share the same passions, because mine is sweet peas, because they're a very short period in the year, June, July, and as you were saying, and if you keep on cutting the dead flowers off, then they will carry on flowering. Peonies I love too. I mean, but I suppose I sort of, apart from, it's nice to be able to work with roses and selecting them and putting them with sweet peas. So, I would go from the pink to the sort of very light pink, because one of my favourite roses is Cathedral.
Yes.
That David Austin. So that was a very sort of soft white cream. Or the more sort of old-fashioned rose where you have those deep purples, really strong deep purple. But I mean Gertrude Jekyll, yeah, that's definitely, yeah. But I mean, I love the scent that's coming off that.
Shall we make you a bouquet with your favourite flowers then?
Please, spoil me.
I will, indeed.
Spoil me rotten.
Okay. Do you think you're the expert? And some peonies?
I'm just wondering whether I'm going to leave it entirely in your safe hands. Right. Which one do you think is best? Maybe that's too green.
Oh, these are nice.
They're crinkly. I always like a bit of filler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks beautiful. What are you doing?
And some peonies? We like love a man who makes peonies. This is for you, Randle. So we now actually have a bouquet named after you. So this is for you, the Randle bouquet.
Wow. Couldn't be, I tell you, this is beautiful. The colours are
all your favourite flowers,
beautiful.
I hope.
Absolutely.
That we'd see in your garden.
That we'd see in the garden, yeah. Well, I might have to change everything now, the palette of everything, especially these beautiful peonies, these coral peonies.
And you have to keep wearing a pink top.
Yeah, and I have to wear the pink top, exactly.
For work, I'm off to Lake Como, and for my charity, my
Your darling
Wild at
dogs.
Heart Foundation, my amazing dog charity, I am planning a trip to Ukraine in August.
Wow.
We're going out to feed tens of thousands of dogs that have been abandoned by the 14 million people, I believe, that have fed Ukraine.
Oh my God.
So people are doing their very best to help people and people with their animals. So
So the answer is give generously.
give generously. Thank you. You need to hold that because you're all dressed in pink.
Do I match the pink?
Perfect.